Hello, this is your Maven of Mystery, and I wanted to talk about something. Someone had asked me what I was doing to lose weight, and in December of 2015, I was over 450 pounds, and I had a lot of mobility issues, and therefore my son was my caregiver, and he would do everything for me. So basically, the heavier I got, the less I was able to move, and the less I was able to move, the heavier I got. So it was just a really vicious cycle. And so I had cellulitis, but we didn't realize it, and it went into sepsis. So I just out of luck, I had fallen, I had slid down from my recliner to the floor. I was trying to get into the recliner and I misjudged the recliner. And Pam and Matthew tried to get me up off the floor, and it wasn't happening. So we had to call 911 and have the firemen come and get me up off the floor. And it took 6 of them with a tarp like thing to lift me up off the floor and onto my feet. I had been getting weaker and weaker, and Pam was really concerned that if I needed to go to the hospital, I wouldn't be able to get in and out of the van because of my weakened state. So she told them that she wanted them to take me to the hospital, and they didn't want to do it. I mean, they wanted to take me to the closest one, not to the one that has my medical records and everything. We wanted to go to UC Davis. And so that was kind of out of the way. So they kept trying to talk us into something else, and I just wouldn't agree to that. So they did take us to UC Davis, where they discovered that I had an infection in my legs. And they started, with a whole bunch of antibiotics. My blood pressure started bottoming out. They filled me with fluids to keep my blood pressure up, and at this point they needed to intubate me, and they sedated me. So I was intubated for 11 days and I was sedated for 9. During that period of time, my muscles lost all their strength, so I was bedbound. I couldn't support my own weight, and physical therapy came, trying to help me with getting, first they had me sitting in a chair, and it's like a cardiac chair. So you lay flat, and they put you over onto this other flat surface, and then they bring it up into a chair, and you sit there. And because I was so weak and my muscles were just not working, it was really painful for me to be in the chair longer than half an hour. So I'm telling you all this because this is what the state of my body was. For the next year, I was hospitalized 2 or 3 times, twice in the ICU. The doctors wanted, at one point, because my left lung was not operating properly, was full of mucus, they wanted to put a chest tube in, but they couldn't guarantee that I would not have to be intubated, and if I were intubated, they couldn't guarantee that they could take the tube out. So the prospect of living the rest of my life, hooked up to a machine, wasn't very good prospect for me. So I declined that treatment. Because I declined that treatment, they sent me home on hospice. And it was their diagnosis that I would not walk again because my lungs didn't have the capacity to support strenuous exercise like that, trying to get me back on my feet. So basically, I was bedbound. And during that period of time, I had, pretty much lost my appetite. All the hospital stays and everything like that. I just, I, I know now that I was really extremely depressed. And I mean, nothing appealed to me. Not food, not entertainment, not company. I just, I think I took it to heart that they wanted me to go home and die, and so I was just doing my best to do that. And because I had gone through all of this, and because I wasn't eating, well, the other thing was, I'm in bed all day. What energy am I expending? I couldn't even, I couldn't get pleasure from eating, and I didn't want to eat because I had no way of burning off the calories. So, I mean, in my mind, I think that I had reasoned that I didn't need to eat a lot. So, therefore, I didn't. And then in, I don't know, it was September or October, because I was on oxygen too. My healthcare aide, who came to bathe me twice a week, she was washing my hair, so she took the oxygen off so that she could wash my hair, but she forgot to put it back on. So I went all day without having the oxygen. And it wasn't until it was time to go to bed that I realized I hadn't had that on all day. And so I was kind of anxious about it. I started to have a panic attack, and then, we just put it on me and kind of hope for the best. The next day, my home health nurse came to, she came 3 times a week, so she came on her visiting day. And we told her what had happened, so she paid closer attention to when she was taking my vitals, and she realized that there was air passing through both of my lungs. So it wasn't, non-functioning like it was in May when they had sent me home on hospice. After that, I was, as Pam would say, it was on and cracking. And I was getting up out of bed into my wheelchair. We used a Hoyer lift, which is like a really big sling, and or like a big hammock that they take you out of bed and they put you in, put me in the wheelchair. And initially, it was really hard to stay in the wheelchair longer than an hour. But every day, I did more and more time in the wheelchair until it was about 8 to 10 hours that I was sitting up. And all the while, it was making me better. I was coughing up a lot of crap. And, but I still, I wasn't real thrilled with food and stuff. So, by the time, while I was, now I graduated off of hospice in November 2016, and they started sending me physical therapy and occupational therapy twice a week each. And I, little by little, I was gaining more strength and doing more things. I mean, the biggest success I had after like 2 or 3 weeks was being able to sit on the edge of the bed by myself. Because when you lose your muscle strength, you can't really sit up properly because of the muscles in your back. So through all of the therapy, by January, I was able to stand up on my own. And once I was able to do that, then I could go out and see my regular doctors. And doing that, I ended up seeing a specialist for my heart and a specialist for my kidneys and a specialist for my lungs, as well as my primary care physician. So when I saw the cardiologist, she explained congestive heart failure to me, and she ordered me basically to lower my sodium intake to 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams a day and a 2,000 calorie a day diet. So I did that. I kept my sodium level closer to the 1,500 than the 2,000. And the next time I saw her, she was blown away. She couldn't believe that I had done it. She said usually she tells people the 1,500 to 2,000 because folks usually err on the 2,000 side, and she goes, and usually they go over, but she wants to keep them as close to 2,000 as possible. So she basically told me that I shave off 500 so that I'll get the 2,000 instead of it really being 1,500. But I still, I would rather be on the low side than the high side. And then I saw the nephrologist, and my creatinine was too high, and that put me in stage 4 kidney disease. And what that means is it's more or less a certainty that you're going to ultimately need dialysis and then a kidney transplant. So what I could do for myself was lower my potassium intake a day to 2,500 milligrams, and also take cranberry salt supplements and things like that. So I was doing that, and I didn't know at the time. I was eating, instead of eating prepared side dishes, I would have a sweet potato, microwave that, or butternut squash, acorn squash, those kind of things. And I don't put butter on it or anything else. And of course, no salt because of the sodium issue. And I felt like I was doing really well. And after I had some lab work done, the attending in nephrology called and said, are you eating bananas? Are you eating tomatoes? Your potassium level's too high. And I told him what I was eating, and he explained to me that sweet potatoes, squash, the hard squash, have a lot of potassium in it. And so he sent me like a guide of what was high in potassium and what wasn't. And so I had to revamp my food plan to limit my potassium and to walk away from certain things that, like, I will still have salsa, but I'm looking for ways to have it without tomatoes, without tomatillas, because they have potassium in it. And no more do I eat potatoes or the hard squash, or another thing that's really bad for kidney issues is chocolate or caffeine, and you have to limit your phosphates. And then on top of all that, I'm diabetic, so sugar is another issue. The other thing that with the kidneys that I didn't realize is you have to limit your proteins as well. So I think I can only have like 69 grams of protein a day. And protein's pretty much in, every dang thing. And if you lower the sodium, then manufacturers put potassium in it. If you lower the potassium, you got a lot of sodium. So it's like a game for me now. What can I eat? And I mean, at first, when he told me I couldn't have squash anymore, I cried. I was like, what can I eat? But now it's like, hey, what can I eat? So, yeah, I've got this app on my phone. It's called My Net Diary, and I put, my recipes in it. I track all the nutritional information, all the things that I need to be watching. I have a tracker on so that it's in my face that every day I plan my meals to coincide with what I can and cannot have. And for me, this has been a life-changing experience for me. I mean, sorry to say that I had to nearly die in order to get with the program, but I mean, now that I have this, extremely new lease on life, I'm not going to blow it by having a chocolate bar or drinking coffee or doing things that I know is detrimental to my health. And I am like this close to now being in stage 3 kidney disease, which I will probably never be stage 2 or stage 1, but at least at stage 3, I have more of a chance of not having dialysis and not having to have a kidney transplant. And I mean, it wasn't, the kidney issue didn't just happen from my hospital, stay that I had just described. I'm bipolar, and initially the medication that they gave me was Effexor, and they gave me that for depression, and I was at the highest dose. And then they also gave me lithium for bipolar, and I was at a pretty high dose for that too. And I didn't find out until I'd been on them for several years. My doctor did some lab work, my primary care physician, and she goes, you know what? You can't take these medications because it's doing damage to your kidneys. And I was like, what am I, I don't want to go crazy. What am I going to do? So I saw another psychologist who put me on different meds, and it was working for a little while. And then we realized that one of the meds she was giving me was increasing my sugar, and being diabetic, that's not a very good thing. So I ended up going to another psychiatric office, and this time I actually got a combination of medications that addresses, my kidney issue, my heart issue, and my sugar issue. And I've been the most even emotionally, mentally, than I have been my whole life. So, I mean, my food plan is, talk to your doctor and find out where you're at physically and what is best to eat for you to have the healthiest life possible. And then just do it. Because nobody could tell me, people could tell me what to do, but I wouldn't do it if I didn't want to. And I didn't want to actually until it became a life or death situation. So I just want to encourage you to not let it get that far, because, life is good, and you really want to be a part of it. So thank you for listening, and I hope this helps somebody. I know it always helps me to talk about things, and anyway, if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please do so. And if you have any comments or questions or anything, please, give me a comment. And if you don't like the video and you want to give me a thumbs down, do me a favor and kind of let me know what it was that you didn't like about it. So then in my future videos, I won't be doing those things. So that would be a really big help for me. Anyway, thank you guys.